Mitch Kuchma with Strategic Self-Reliance and Defense, and today I'm going to talk to you about a course called TCCC, or Tactical Combat Casualty Care. A little background, right? Studies have shown that about 90% of combat deaths occur pre-hospital, meaning the deaths occur between point of injury and that trauma bay, whether that's in a Rule 3, in a combat support hospital, a casualty receiving treatment ship, or in the civilian world in the trauma hospital, the trauma center. So TCCC focuses entirely on pre-hospital care. Okay? That's what it does. Tactical combat casualty care is all about pre-hospitals, before that patient is received at the trauma center. Now, TCCC is credited with saving hundreds of lives. Probably more than that. That's probably a very conservative estimate. Reason being, we've had 20 plus years of practice in the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. So that's 20 plus years of combat experience. And TCCC has been there the whole time. It's been changing. We've been changing guidelines and updating them, but it saved a lot of lives because we've gotten something as simple as the tourniquets out there. Prior to TCCC, tourniquets were a bad name. People just weren't using them. So that's changed dramatically. We'll talk about that in future videos. But all right. So again, the whole goal here is to provide better care in the pre-hospital setting and save lives. All right. A little bit of history about TCCC. Very, very little. Okay. TCCC was started in the 90s. Some Special Operations Forces medics kind of thought it up. It was their brainchild. It's changed hands multiple times. Now it's a DoD-wide initiative. DoD owns it. DoD has committees that meet, working groups that meet, and that's what they do. It's all the experts, trauma surgeons, trauma nurses, medics, corpsmen, you name it. All the experts are there. They're all represented, and they talk about what's the latest research, what's the latest science, what works on the battlefield from lessons learned, what doesn't. And they revise the guidelines accordingly. So it's constantly evolving. I don't want to spend a lot of time, but I do want to mention TCCC's cousin, Tactical Emergency Casualty Care, TECC. It's the civilian version of TCCC, basically. Very similar courses. They're both managed now by NAEMT, the National Association of Emergency Medical Technicians. There are differences though. And the biggest difference, other than just that they've changed some words, some titles, some names of things, is that TCCC can focus entirely on military age, mostly healthy. TECC can't do that. They've got to worry about little ones, all the way to the elderly, and they've got to worry about people that are in reasonably good health and people that aren't, right? Varying medical problems, medical backgrounds. So TECC is a little bit broader. Its focuses are a little different, but it's mostly the same course, and we do offer both of those. So let me go back to TCCC. TCCC, again, pre-hospital care, point of injury, to rolling through the doors of the trauma hospital, the trauma center, the trauma bay, whatever, right? That first contact with that trauma doc. That's all pre-hospital. That's what TCCC is all about. TCCC breaks that entire period into 3 phases, okay? Care under fire is the first phase, and just like it sounds, it's care under fire, right? It means you're doing a little bit of medical care while you're receiving hostile fire, okay? So you don't want to do much because you don't want to expose yourself and get shot, then you're a casualty. Really the goal in care under fire, I guess there's 3 goals. One is to win the fight. This is the military we're talking about. You want to keep shooting. You want to keep sending rounds down range. You want to keep the enemy's head down or kill the enemy. And that's the objective of the military. So military medicine is no different. we're going to have to support that effort. All right? So if you're a war fighter and you go down and you keep shooting, right? And you encourage that casualty, if they're still with it, they keep sending rounds down range. There's a saying, it's the best medicine is fire superiority, right? So that kind of fits right into care under fire. So that's the first goal, keep shooting. Second goal is get the casualty to cover, right? That's either have them move themselves if they're able, or you might have to come up with a really quick plan to safely do that. Drag them to cover, all right, without getting yourself shot. And then the third goal, and this is the only medical goal in the entire phase of care under fire, is stopping emergent bleeding, life-threatening bleeding, bleeding that will kill you in minutes. All right, how do you know it's life-threatening bleeding? Well, arterial spurt is one clue. If there's a big pool of blood under the patient, under that casualty, their clothes are completely soaked with blood, amputation, those are all signs that that's life-threatening bleeding, right? So you intervene very briefly in this care under fire phase by putting a hasty tourniquet, high and tight, and we're going to talk all about tourniquets and stopping bleeding in a future video, so stay tuned. All right, so that's care under fire, first phase. Second phase is what we call tactical field care. Tactical field care, you're in tactical field care when the shooting stops. That's kind of a joke, but because it's not always that way. But we start the tactical field care phase when either the hostile is down, the hostilities end, or you've gotten that casualty out of the line of fire into what we call a warm zone, out of the hot zone into a warm zone, behind solid cover. Now you as a provider don't have to worry so much about getting shot. You can focus your efforts on medical care. And all the medical care in TCCC, or very nearly all the medical care in TCCC, falls in this phase, in tactical field care phase. Because there's so much to remember, and the military loves its acronyms, they came up with an acronym called MARCH PAWS, M-A-R-C-H, space P-A-W-S. And the MARCH PAWS acronym really just helps us remember the proper order of treatment. So you do things in the right sequence, and you don't skip things. Okay? I'm going to come back to the MARCH PAWS acronym here in just a minute, but let me just finish up by talking about that third phase of TCCC. So you got care under fire, tactical field care, and the third phase and last phase is called tactical evacuation care. And just like it sounds, it's evacuation. It's moving the patient from wherever they are, the casualty collection point, to definitive medical care. So whether that be dedicated medevac, air evac, casevac, whatever the case may be, it's whatever you're using to evacuate that patient, that encompasses tactical evacuation care. So and basically there's a handoff usually between the person that's taking care of medicine and tactical field care to somebody else to do the evacuation, but that's not always the case. If you're just transporting a victim in your Humvee, in your vehicle, you might be doing both. You've just, the same person, you've just switched from tactical field care into tactical evacuation care by moving. All right, so anyway, that's the three phases. Let me bounce back to tactical field care and talk a little bit about the acronym MARCH PAWS, because this is really the meat and potatoes of TCCC. We spend a lot of time on MARCH PAWS. All right, so MARCH, M, usually the first, whatever's first is usually the highest priority, right? It's the first thing we've got to deal with. It's the most important thing, right? Think about BLS. BLS, it used to be ABC, airway, breathing, circulation. Then we've changed it to CAB, but those things, that's evolving too as science changes. MARCH PAWS, M, massive hemorrhage. That is the #1 priority. Okay, stop the bleed. You don't move past any step until you've controlled that, right? You can't, if they're spurting got an arterial spurt coming from an arm wound, you can't put a Band-Aid on it and move to A. You got to stop at M and correct that massive hemorrhage. You got to fix that. You don't move forward. All right. So, yeah, massive hemorrhage, #1 priority. All right, #2 in the acronym MA, right? We're at A. A is airway. Open the airway. Make sure their windpipe is open, their tongue's out of the way, they don't have anything in there, and we're going to cover each one of these in detail in future videos. So, R, respirations. Are they breathing? Do they need help with breathing? Okay, C is circulation. Mostly circulation comes down to treating shock. All right, so we'll get into that in that video. H is head injury and hypothermia. Now, not a lot we're doing for head injuries in the field, honestly. The biggest intervention, I suppose, for TCCC for head injury is assessing head injury. What is their level of consciousness at this moment? So when you reassess it, you can tell, are they getting better or worse? All right. The big intervention under H, though, for us, because this is a twofer, you got head injury and hypothermia, is hypothermia, preventing hypothermia. You got to prevent the patient from getting cold. Okay? And we will, again, talk about that in a future video. All right, so that's MARCH. Now, pause is easy. Pause is just P, pain. It's not giving pain, it's treating pain. So you want to manage their pain. A is antibiotics. So we get an early dose of antibiotics on board because the battlefield's dirty. You know, we want to fight infection right from the very beginning. W is wound management / burn management. So you deal with wounds. And then S is splinting. You know, splinting of fractures predominantly is what we're talking about here. And again, we'll cover these in individual videos. That was a quick down and dirty on TCCC as an introduction. Again, I'm Rich Kuchman with Strategic Self-Reliance and Defense. Thanks for watching.